I call to order the Gladstone City Council meeting for July 13th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Per the Governor's Executive Order 20-16 regarding compliance with Oregon's public meeting laws, the City of Gladstone is abiding by social distancing requirements during the coronavirus pandemic. This City Council meeting will be conducted virtually using the Zoom platform. The Zoom access instructions can be found on the meeting agenda. Members of the council, staff, and the public all have access to this call. Public comment requests were accepted prior to noon today and were to include your topic and phone number. The city upgraded its Zoom software so it allows us to easily conduct events with a simpler interface in a professional setting. There are two groups of participants. Those are the panelists and attendees. Panelists are those you will see on the platform, such as elected officials, the city administrator, city attorney, and any staff or person making a presentation. Attendees are those in the audience. Attendees will still be able to speak for 3 minutes during business from the audience or during agenda items if they've submitted their request to speak before noon today. Additionally, if members of the public become disruptive, we will mute and remove them from the video conference. If that fails to stop the disruption, we will recess the meeting and return within 5 minutes. If we are unable to continue, council will briefly meet off air to move unfinished business to the next council agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes approval of the June 8th, 2021 City Council meeting and the June 22nd, 2021 special meeting minutes, approval of the May bank balances, budget report for periods ending May 31st, 2021, approval of the May check register, legal costs on projects, department head monthly reports for June 2021, and to consider the approval of a letter of support to the Department of Land Conservation and Development, also referred to as the DLCD, for grant funding to assist with revisions to the city's comprehensive plan and zoning code to be in compliance with House Bill 2001. Our regular meeting agenda includes the discussion and possible action related to removal of a public officer, Resolution 1198, update the master fee schedule for pass-through water environmental services, also referred to as WES, Oak Lodge Water and Gladstone System Development Charge Fees, also referred to as SDCs. Resolution 1199, charter review for the November ballot. Resolution 1200, new public works facility for the November ballot, and the creation of a community services manager position. Tammy, could you please call the roll?
Councillor Ripley.
Yes.
Councillor Alexander.
Yes.
Councillor Tracy.
Present.
Councillor Hartman.
Here.
Councillor Todd.
Here.
Councillor Garlington.
Here.
Mayor Stemple.
Here, could everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are there any agenda additions or corrections?
Thank you, Mayor. We have one addition tonight. We did email the resolution to the City Council earlier and placed it on the city's website, but it is the actual resolution number 1198. You have a staff report and the master fee schedule in your packet, and this resolution is what you will be consider approving tonight.
Did everyone get a copy of that? Yeah, I don't see any no's. All right. First item is the consent agenda. Do I have any questions or concerns? I'll go through the councilors individually. Councilor Alexander. Councilor Alexander, questions or concerns on the consent agenda?
Oh, I have none. Thank you.
Councilor Ripley.
No questions.
Councilor Garlington.
None for me.
Councilor Todd.
No.
Councilor Hartman.
I did have one question, Mayor.
on 4-1, can you just clarify or someone clarify what the meter readers is for $2,203? What a meter reading service we have?
They read our water meters. They
Oh,
go-
okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Counselor Tracy.
No question.
All right, would someone make a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Motion was made by Counselor Hartman and seconded by Counselor Alexander to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any further questions, concerns? I don't see any hands. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Tracy.
Aye.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, consent agenda has passed. Are there any correspondence?
I have nothing further, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So a couple of things before we start. First, for those folks that would like to speak, the deadline to accept comments was noon today. And as a reminder, we allow 3 minutes for public comment. Second, as I do before every meeting, I would like to say a few words regarding the City Council. The most important limitation we have sitting here is that we are representing the citizens of Gladstone, not our own personal agendas and beliefs. There have been many times when a decision being made doesn't align with what we would like personally, but have made a decision based on what is best for the city as a whole. That does not mean our personal beliefs have changed, just that the city's needs were more important. As we discuss and consider matters, there are laws and rules we have to use as the basis of our decisions. These start at the federal and state level, then filter down to our city's comprehensive plan, the city charter, codes, and ordinances. We do not have the luxury of randomly making decisions, but instead have to be consistent and take a path that is defensible. We appreciate you taking the time to call in and participate in this process. We will have your phones muted until it is your time to speak. And if we're not able to mute your phone, please do so on your end. My goal is to keep this meeting respectful and engaging, and I hope you all can help us do that. There's gonna be a lot of talking here shortly. All right, first item is agenda item number 8. And excuse me, I could only print this out really, really small, so I'm gonna have to be squinting. First, we're gonna go through the format, and we need an approval from the city councilors to go with this format or make changes. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody got a copy of Chad's recommended format. Yeah, like thumbs up if you have, that would be great. Okay, so everybody got, okay. So bear with me, please. This agenda item is to consider the possible removal of Mr. Bill Osborne from the city's Traffic Safety Advisory Board under section 2.10.040 of the Gladstone Municipal Code. Members of a city board, committee, or commission serve at the pleasure of the city council, and except as may be limited or prohibited by law, may be removed at any time and for any reason by a majority vote of the city council. The council is considering Mr. Osborne's removal because of his actions related to the unauthorized release of confidential city information. Specifically, Mr. Osborne received city documents that were clearly marked as confidential and released them to the public during a city council meeting being held via Zoom, and subsequently posted such documents on various social media and other online platforms. The question before the council tonight is whether those actions have impaired Mr. Osborne's ability to continue to serve in a policy-making role for the city. To reach this decision, the council will consider the effects of Mr. Osborne's actions on city operations, including but not limited to 1, the creation of potential legal liability for the city, 2, additional legal and administrative costs incurred by the city, 3, the impact on his ability to work with his fellow board members, 4, the impact of his actions on the community's trust in city government, 5, the ability of the council to trust Mr. Osborne's ongoing actions on the board. And 6, the overall disruption to the public services the city performs that occurred due to Mr. Osborne's actions. Tonight is an opportunity for the council to hear directly from Mr. Osborne as to why he should remain in his appointed position despite his actions related to the release of confidential city information. This hearing is not an opportunity to discuss or debate the contents of the underlying confidential documents. In other words, we are to decide whether Mr. Osborne's actions have significantly enough hindered his ability to continue to serve in his appointed role within the Gladstone city government. We are not here to debate the actions of anyone who was involved in the subject matter of the underlying confidential documents. To provide this opportunity to Mr. Osborne, we will provide him with 5 minutes to make an opening statement. Thereafter, we will provide an opportunity for members of the council to ask Mr. Osborne questions. Once the council has completed its questions, if any, we will then take public comment on this issue. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Once public comment is over, we will provide Mr. Osborne an additional 5 minutes to respond to any issues raised during the hearing and to provide closing remarks. Thereafter, I will close the hearing. The council will deliberate about what action, if any, the council desires to take. So the first is a roll call vote. Does any member of the council desire to make any changes to these proposed procedures? A yay or a nay would be fine. Councillor Alexander.
Nay.
All right, meaning you accept it as it is and you don't want to make changes.
I think so. That's what it's.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Councillor Ripley,
No changes.
Councillor Garlington,
No changes.
Councillor Todd,
No changes.
Councillor Hartman,
No changes.
Councillor Tracy.
No changes.
All right, I do have a question for our city attorney and possibly Mr. Osborne. I think the attorney can probably answer my question. Was Mr. Osborne told what the format was going to be tonight at all so that he could be prepared?
Not in specifics because the council hadn't decided. I just provided a recommendation and didn't want to give him any false information.
Okay, so he had no idea how much time he was going to have to speak or how often or in what context?
He knew that he was going to have an opportunity to address the council. And if he feels that 10 minutes is not enough, then he can certainly ask for more time.
Okay, all right, that's what I just wanted to clarify. So I don't see any changes that need to be made either. So the next is, hold on a second. Again, this is really small. Okay, so now I will open the hearing for item number 8, discussion and possible action related to the removal of a public officer. And I invite Mr. Osborne to make his opening statement, please.
Hi. Yeah, first thing I'd like to ask for is the time constraints may be a little too much, so I may need a little more time. If I'd been aware that there was going to be a time limit, I would have been able to prepare what I had within that. But since I wasn't, I may go over a little bit.
Okay. All right, Bill, you've got the floor.
All right. And before I even start my opening statements, I just want to say I keep hearing this thing as was just repeated, clearly marked as confidential. Nowhere on anything that I released did it say confidential on it. So I just want to start with that. I don't know where that keeps coming up because that term keeps getting thrown around, but it is very inaccurate. Nothing at all on what I released and what I received said confidential in any way, shape, or form. Okay, my name's Bill Osborne. My pronouns are me, myself, and I. The first Whistleblower Protection Act was implemented July 30th, 1778 by the Continental Congress, almost 243 years ago. The lawmakers knew it was important to protect those who would uncover the dirt and corruption that festers in the dark. These laws are important because they protect our freedom of speech to challenge abuses of powers that betray the public's trust. The Supreme Court, who can't agree on anything, but every case they've had since 2000, they have overwhelmingly backed whistleblowers. To say that you're violating the law and your oaths and oaths of office by rights is an understatement on what's happening here. This hearing itself is retaliatory in nature and therefore has already opened up the city for liability for violating my rights and breaking the whistleblower protection law. It has also opened individual members up to liability as well. While some of the council presumed to make the accusation I violated some rule, those members have violated the council rules and numerous Oregon and federal laws. I have violated no such rule. This is nothing more than a vengeful act from an abusive member of the council and his enablers. But then the exact bullying behavior from Matt Tracy is what the whole issue is about. The main focus here by most people in the community is the abusive attack on the city administrator, and then the council ignoring her plea for help. Many of these people fear the very retaliation I'm suffering at this very moment for speaking up publicly. So they remain silent and hope the council will do the right thing. This kind of behavior simply has no place in our society and is completely unacceptable by one of Gladstone's elected officials. The city administrator, Jackie Betts, felt so moved by these horribly abusive actions as to handwrite 3 pages documenting this attack. 3 pages of handwritten accounts of the abuse at the hands of Matt Tracy. And Matt Tracy apparently feels so self-righteous at his role of white savior that during the meeting on May 19th.
Need to call a point of order.
Excuse me?
Point of order. I'm going to call a point of order because you're here to explain to us why we should not be removing you from position. We're not supposed to be discussing as the mayor had respectfully listed. Okay, well, we don't need to be talking about things that you've already stated on the record. That is the point of order. You're supposed to stay as why you need.
I'm getting to that.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
would recommend you get to that.
Thank you.
Excuse me, could the chair take control of the meeting, please? I think we deviated off of the point. Mr. Osborne is supposed to be talking about why he should stay on the committee. I feel like he's once again using this opportunity to lie to the public about the activities that he has no business talking about because he wasn't in the room. So could the chair please take control of the meeting?
Bill, could you please rein it back and get to the criteria that we mentioned?
Well, I'm trying to, but I keep getting cut up by people who just don't want to hear the truth and claim the truth is a lie. So
Sir, the truth is what we know it is, and it's been testified by 2 other individuals who are involved. So, Mr. Osborne, you can't just come here and start saying things about anybody on the council just because you feel like you have an opportunity to do so.
I'm sorry.
We're here to talk about whether or not you should remain on the committee, are we not?
I'm getting to that. So
sure. So let's go to that. That's what this hearing is about.
Thank you. Please get to the point. Thank you.
All right. I try to not deviate into any truths or whatever there because I know they're offensive to some people. Let's see here. Where was I? So apparently I need to skip over the point about the racist, misogynistic rant because that's not an issue, of course. Let's look at what I'm accused of. Let's set aside for the moment that my rights have been violated and the city and individuals of the council are ripe for litigation because of these actions. Let's forget that our city administrator was verbally abused by a racist, misogynistic elected official and is using his position to intimidate her into complying with his own mental conflict.
Bill, can you get to the criteria, please?
This is just a continuation of the character assassination of me. When we had the city administrator, the city attorney, and others invalidate your claims, Mr. Osborne, tell us why you should remain after releasing these confidential personnel records, why you should remain on the committee. That's your charge here, is it not?
The claims are that I released a paper that was a handwritten document by the city administrator accounting your attack on her, Matt. That was,
And again, you took the paper out of context. Tell us why you should
It
be
was
on
in-
the committee.
it was in black and white. I didn't take it out of context, but
Yes, you did.
I will go there now.
Good.
Have I violated any rule? No. Have I violated any laws? No. Have I violated anyone's trust? No. Were the papers I released confidential? No. The term confidential keeps being thrown around, so let's start there. Were these papers confidential? At one point, they may have been. But as a member of the public, when these were given to me, they legally were no longer confidential. I simply was the first person to see them when they were released before sharing them as anybody would. There was nothing on these to allow any reasonable person to believe they were confidential. There are already accusations that some of the very council gave these to me. If that is true, then they have the legal authority to distribute the documents. Any current member and previous members of the council at the time of the incident can share legal documents. There is no law against that. And I assume the city has confirmed there was no breach of their files. So whomever released the papers had legal access and as such, the ability to release them. My city position does not give me access, nor would I be able to use that position to get my hands on this report. Let's strip this down even further. The complaint against Matt Tracy as an elected official is a public document, not confidential. The decision to withhold it from the public wasn't legal. The public is who you all serve, who you have taken an oath to serve. And this is one example of the failure of that oath. This is also a failure of the city to provide a safe environment for its employees. And if I were Jackie Betts, I would do the crap out of you for that failure. Holding this hearing and attempting to penalize me for blowing the whistle is leaving the city of Gladstone and its council members at risk for potential legal action, more so than my distribution of the papers. This again was all a result from Matt Tracy's actions. The most laughable thing about this witch hunt is when you called the May 19th emergency meeting. I emailed the city to let them know I would be available to answer any questions they might have. I was logged in and clearly accessible. While Matt Tracy joyfully explained it's been some money, taxpayer money, of course, to investigate this, nobody bothered to even ask me how or where I obtained these public documents. Apparently explaining cry havoc and let's flip the dogs of war was far more interesting than actually finding answers. This investigation in itself is illegal and asserts a desire to uncover the whistleblower or whistleblower's source for retaliation. Unless, of course, the city is chomping at the bit to reward this freedom of speech when it matters the most. The reason people fear this is because in a free society, there's nothing more powerful than the truth. The members behind this push and their associates make a normal practice of controlling social media and censoring anyone who posts facts that don't further their agenda. Some of you may decide to violate Oregon and federal law along with Gladstone codes and your oath to vote to remove me from my board position. Let's be clear on this though. This is a personal attack to retaliate against me for simply being transparent. That's a term I believe all of you use to get your positions you hold. I suppose some of you who betray your oath before, this probably won't matter. You have to decide whether the law and people's trust matters, or if your revenge and anger does. I'm trying to not dive into any of the truth of the original reason for this because some of you are upset about that.
Are you just about done?
I'm close, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to point out, of course, those who have asked my removal, if I had done this action, if I had been accused of verbally abusing the city administrator, would be the ones out there at the front screaming for justice on that. I would like to also say on this to Jackie that I fully support you, and this was so wrong. I'm sorry you had to deal with this. I'm even more sorry our elected officials let you down and didn't support you. While it has been suggested the distribution of this may have caused you distress, I want you to know that was never my intention. I admire your strength and the strength you showed in filing this, and will continue to push to make sure this incident is investigated. And there are procedures in place to keep anyone else in Gladstone from suffering the abuse you had to. And I would like to touch on, when the mayor opened the meeting, she talked about, that this wasn't about personal agendas, and this is very much about personal agendas. The initial actions that led to even these papers being generated was an improper act perpetrated by one of the counselors. And that was never addressed. So here you guys are talking about removing me in retaliation for being a whistleblower. And still as of yet, the original incident has been ignored by the council. So I guess you guys all need to ask yourselves, is covering things up from another counselor, is that appropriate? Is that
Point of order.
of Gladstone?
Point of order. Let's
And
get back to why you shouldn't be.
The point of order is that you guys are sitting here looking to, lynch me for this, but you're making excuses
Point of
for.
order, we're not going to use that word lynch, okay?
Thank
Point of
you.
order.
I just.
Thank you.
And let's go back to this. Not at all, Mr. Osborne. The entire council knew about this unfortunate conversation, difficult conversation at the time it happened. They knew all along. The council had the opportunity to reach out directly to City Administrator Betts. I mean, let's talk about the truth. You're so interested in the truth, and yet you're skirting the truth completely with these falsities that you're bringing forward.
Truth is,
So
you're.
either tell us why you need to stay on the committee. I mean, I think that you have a perfect opportunity here, Mr. Osborne, to tell us why you feel like you should be trusted with our city business on the committee. The citizens elected me, and it certainly is within their right to recall me if they feel that they need to. But there are many citizens who actually truly know the truth. And it seems to be something that's very foreign to you at this moment. So tell us why you should remain on the committee. That's why you're here, sir.
Are you implying that the city administrator lied about this?
Not at all. What I'm telling you is that these conversations happened a year ago and you weren't in the room. Many counselors, many other folks were in the room. The city administrator was in the room. She's talked to the council members. You act as though nobody brought this to light a year ago. It was discussed.
Not publicly. That's the whole point of this hearing right now, is because they were brought out publicly after they've been hidden away from the public.
Mr. Osborne, part of the reason it wasn't brought out publicly is also because it's the prerogative of the individual who filed the personnel complaint to not have it brought out in public. And the council wanted to abide by those wishes.
You're an elected official, not personnel.
It's still a personnel complaint. It's a human resources personnel complaint, Mr. Osborne.
Mhm. I do have more information in my closing statements, which will cover some of the stuff you just asked about.
All right, thank you. Counselor Garlington, you had your hand up?
I just want to remind the public who's listening to this that at the time that this happened, Counselor Hartman, Counselor Alexander, and myself were not on city council.
Thank you. So now's the time to ask Bill questions, even though that was definitely going on during his introduction. Would somebody like to ask Bill questions? Counselor Alexander?
I have no questions as far as, I guess my only concern would be if he does get voted off, what do we have in place to keep this from happening again? And
Okay.
would you do it again?
Is that a question to me? Would I do it again?
Yeah,
Yeah, this was public information. Nowhere was it marked confidential. If somebody put information like this again, I would put it out there. It had nothing to do with my position on traffic safety. And whether I'm on there or not in the future, it will have nothing to do with my community act.
okay, thanks, that's all.
Counselor Ripley?
I got a couple questions. I thought I heard that you had been asked who gave it to you, and you mentioned that nobody's ever asked, so I would like to ask you that. Who gave it to you?
You are the first person to officially asked me that. Honestly, I don't know who gave it to me. It showed up on my porch in a white envelope inside of a Ziploc bag. I was
Okay.
quite surprised at what I found inside.
Mhm. The other thing, you mentioned that there was nothing being done about whoever released the information to you. And they're actually working on the investigation on that right now. So that is being worked on. Back in January, when the same issue came up, we had the same conversation with Jackie, and Jackie says, no, we're all good. They worked it out and everything is good. So that was all public in January. And then to bring it up again, it's concerning. But so I do have one. The main question for you that I'll ask is, what are your hours on traffic safety? As a counselor, I'm 24/7, a city councilor. I'm a representative to the citizens of Gladstone and to neighboring cities. And to our committee members, I always thought they were a 24/7 position too. When you're in town, you're seeing traffic problems, you're talking to the public. So 24/7, you are a committee member. So when you read that stuff at the city council meeting, you can't do it as the public anymore when you're in an appointed position that's going to be 24/7. So I can't remember what my main question was, because I think I kept talking.
Originally, you were
So,
asking,
so what do you think the hours of a committee member are?
I think if I notice something at any point in time, I'm going to jot it down and bring it up at the meeting. We meet every other month, but by no means at all do I yield my constitutional rights and my rights as an individual and a resident of Gladstone just because I volunteer on a board. My community activism and some of the stuff and challenge some of the local elected officials, I believe is also my duty. So, and I believe it's every resident's duty. It's just a lot of people are afraid to stand up because, well, you get attacked. And your earlier thing you asked about why I didn't mention it back in January, I didn't know about this. Wasn't out as public information in January. And I had heard bits and pieces and rumors, but until I received that report, I didn't know exactly what happened. So that's why I brought it up when I did. As soon as I got it, I brought it up.
Did you ask him, did you go to Jackie or to anybody else prior to bringing it up, or was there first time you brought it up at the city council meeting?
First time I brought it up was at the city council meeting. I thought about talking to people ahead of time. Figured that would get it out there the best and probably, just get it to the most people. I believe like every resident should be able to see that. And
And you know what, Bill, I agree with you on that, but I don't think Jackie's notes, I think that's an obvious issue there. But I do agree with it, that if there's an issue, it needs to bring up. But the problem is this was an issue a year ago and it was resolved. And if you would have talked to Jackie or Matt, then that would have saved you some time.
well, actually, as far as resolving, my understanding from, again, bits and pieces, I don't have all the facts on this, I'll freely admit, but it was put out to the council, this complaint, whether to investigate or not. And only 2 of the council members at the time voted yes. The other 4 either didn't vote or voted no, not to look into this. So Jackie had extended basically asked for help from the council, and the council turned their back on her. So in many
That's
abuse,
an absolute false characterization, Mr. Osborne.
people are abused.
Again, you are
When they don't
you're telling people something that is absolutely untrue, absolutely untrue. And I don't know why we continue to let this go. The fact of the matter was, and let me explain to you what happened, because you're obviously void of facts.
Enlighten me.
I will, thank you. So City Administrator Betts and I, after having the conversation, we both worked with the city attorney to determine a path for resolution. I did not speak to City Administrator Betts for quite a few days. We worked through this resolution to try to figure out how we could go forward and work together. I offered to work with City Administrator Betts with a mediator. Frankly, there is an email that we could share publicly from the city attorney saying to me that he felt City Administrator Betts had told him, Chad Jacobs, She was comfortable with a one-on-one conversation, and Jackie Betts and I had a phone conversation. We both agreed that it was a difficult conversation, and given the emotionality of the issue at the time and the fact that I was representing a group of folks who, quite frankly, had become fairly vocal very recent to this unfortunate discussion, I was taking this position with Jackie Betts about John Morgan not being suited for the listening session. I still stand by that.
Because he's white?
No, Bill, because he's not trained to actually work with trauma-informed people to the best of our knowledge. It certainly wasn't there on his resume. So we're in a different paradigm. So why don't you work with me here for a minute, okay?
I'm trying.
So good. So we got along. After that, we talked, we worked it out, and we went down the path and continued to work together on this very issue. It was behind us. What you're representing or what you're characterizing just it simply did not happen that way. So you talk about the truth, and yet you don't want to know the truth. You didn't reach out to Jackie Betts to ask her opinion of the conversation. You didn't reach out to Chad Jacobs to find out if there was something wrong at City Hall. So you really didn't do your due diligence. Instead, you came up with a story, created your own narrative, and this is what you're spewing out there. And it's a false narrative.
I simply put out documents and let them speak.
Correct. Documents that you weren't entitled to.
Well, they were given to me, so obviously somebody thought I was.
You know, Bill, one of my careers, I used to have a top secret security clearance, and I worked for our wonderful government. You don't just take documents and start distributing them. So you obviously don't understand anything about sensitive materials. I quite frankly, unless somebody reprinted those documents, there was a confidentiality stamp on those documents, because every document that we get from the city attorney is stamped confidential.
They're online. You can look at the ones I posted. Nothing I got said confidential at all.
I mean, I don't know. You're trying to make a case to stay on the committee. I understand that, but you don't get to sit here and spew a false narrative about what happened. I mean, quite frankly, Jackie Betts and I can both raise our hands. You talk about taking an oath. We can swear to a deposition or affidavit. And we're both going to tell the truth as we both experienced it together. So you just keep going with this narrative, and I don't know that you understand. It's a false narrative, and we also have the emails that we could share with you, but they're confidential. And quite frankly, I think we should make them public so that we can put this to bed, because
Great
I don't
transparency.
appreciate
to do that.
Absolutely, but I don't appreciate the fact that you get to come on here and basically spew lies about me, and I'm supposed to sit here and just be very polite about it. I don't feel like being polite right now.
Well, I would say you keep accusing me of spewing lies. Perhaps we could read the complaint into the record, because I'm just going by what's on there.
No, we're not going to do that. And what I find interesting is that the attorney gave us very specific guidelines for this. And I don't see anybody sitting up there yelling point of order with all of this stuff that's going on. So I'm going to go back to the way that I was doing this to begin with, and that is going counselor to counselor to answer questions, and ask questions, and we need to get back to the criteria, please. Counselor Garlington. Oh, hold on a second. Counselor Ripley, are you done? Sorry, I didn't mean to have you interrupted.
I'm done for now.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Garlington.
So the city councilors have a large budget with not as large as Portland, but we have a $64 million budget that we just passed. What is the budget of the Traffic Safety Committee, or do they even have one?
Is that a question to me?
Yes.
As far as I know, we don't have any budget. We don't have any money to do anything. We just make recommendations to the council and hope that they'll listen to them and fund them.
And the recommendations that you make are based on what criteria?
One of our big things is pedestrian bicycle safety, traffic issues, stop signs. There was some put in by Max Patterson Park that was originally brought up by one of our members. Currently, we're working at trying to slow traffic down on Webster and put in some crosswalks there. But again, all we can make is recommendations. A lot of those are based off the transportation system plan as well, which I was on that advisory committee.
So I didn't know that if it was or was not my place, but have you spoken with any of the people that you work with on your transportation board? And are they willing to come forward and speak to whether or not they feel there would be an issue, or they are comfortable staying with the traffic safety board as it stands?
I have not reached out to any of them. I'm not sure why. I wouldn't know why any of them would have an issue on this. It doesn't affect any of them. It doesn't affect the traffic and safety. So get along with everybody on there. We're a pretty agreeable group.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, Counselor Todd.
I was gonna go down a road, but I decided I'm not going to. I'm gonna stick with some stuff here. Had you have known that it was confidential, Mr. Osborne, would you have kept it to yourself or talked to somebody in advance, or would you have continued down the road that you went?
If it came to me marked confidential, I would probably seek legal advice to see whether that was something that I would need to worry about. I generally, before I do things, I make sure it's not something that myself or somebody else is going to get in trouble for.
Would it have bothered you that it caused the person a lot of stress that you were sharing their personal documentation? Did that bother you?
Did it bother me that it may have caused Jackie some distress? It did, yes. I believe that there were facts and things that needed to be out there and that the public needed to know about it. So.
Okay. And this is just sort of a matter of something that I wanted to share. It keeps getting brought up, who voted what and when and move forward. Do you know how I voted on that original email to our attorney?
I'm not sure. I haven't got all that information.
Who would you have gotten that information from?
From the city. I know that there's also some news agencies that are looking into this story as well.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to let you know that I actually was in the hospital having surgery during this whole thing. And it's sort of been this truth telling of that I didn't bother to respond. So sometimes I think that there's truth and then there's facts. And I think that you sometimes go down a path where you don't know everything and you try and act like you do. So I'm going to go point of order myself and move along.
Great, thank you. Counselor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few questions and some comments. I need a little more context of the situation because I feel like it got a little out of hand. I know that you had already answered the question. I just want to clarify, you never once thought in your process to ever consult Administrator Betts and ask permission to share her story with the public? Yes or no is fine.
I gave some thought to it, but I decided to put it out there like I did, yes.
So, okay, so no, you did not ask permission. Okay. You did state when Councilor Ripley asked you a couple of questions that you heard some rumors. Who did you hear these rumors from? And what rumors are you talking about?
I've heard different rumors around town. I just heard there was some issues about some incident with Matt. I seen the mayor when she was talking about his placement for council president at the meeting there, that there was something going on. And so, yeah, just a number of things like that, little blips here and there that something had happened. What it was, I wasn't sure until I actually got the document.
Okay. And you said that it showed up in a envelope in a plastic bag. Can you confirm exactly what was in that envelope?
In that envelope was 3 pages of a handwritten complaint, and then I believe 2 other pages. I don't know if it was from the attorney or an email, a copy of something. I don't remember exactly what it is at the moment.
Okay, so the email that you're referring to, I would say most likely had client attorney privilege at the top of that email if it was from our attorney regarding this, because all of the information that I have seen regarding this incident all had clear capital letters, client attorney privilege. So if you could find those 2 documents and confirm that, that would be fantastic.
I have it here, and I've looked, I do not see anywhere. I do not see anywhere on it where anything says confidential at all.
Okay. And then just to be clear, are you aware that disclosing confidential information with the public without council consent violates our council rules?
I am aware that it violates some council rules. There was this discussion a number of years ago from the city attorney when David Dukeman was the attorney. And what he said was that any member of the council that they are the clients and they can give that information out. Where it may violate the rules, it doesn't violate any laws and it does not violate any attorney-client privilege.
Attorney Jacobs, is that correct?
No, that's not correct. The council as a body is the only one that can waive the privilege. Individual members of the council have no authority to waive the privilege.
Thank you.
Mr. Dukeman was wrong on that then.
And then I think it's pretty clear that there were some implications of your actions on our city staff. And I just want to make sure that you are aware that what happens, although you think you're in the right, put unnecessary concern and created a very unsafe environment for our city staff and our employees to come forward with their HR complaints with the fear that their private business be caught in the middle of a political fight. So it's more of a comment for you, just to, since you already answered that question, that you did somewhat feel terrible for what you put Ms. Betts through. Can you confirm the number of social media platforms that you posted this confidential document on?
Yeah, first, just your previous question there. I would also point out that as a member of, just a member resident of Gladstone, this very meeting is an example where, coming out with information, you can face retaliatory actions too, or being a whistleblower. To answer your question on the social media platforms, I put that on Facebook and I put it on Nextdoor. Although there's a group that takes control on Nextdoor that was promptly trying to censor that out of there, including people that are on other boards in Gladstone.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, can you confirm that you attempted to meet with Administrator Betts after the meeting where you put her personal business on blast? I think it was twice without making an appointment.
No, I went by there and I asked if she was available. She was not. I left my phone number and told, I don't remember if it was Tammy Bannick I talked to or not, or somebody in the office. Just if you could let her have my number, tell her to give me a call if she wants to talk. But I don't recall going in there a second time, no.
Okay, thank you. And then just to follow up on Councilor Todd's question about if you would do this again, a community member asked you, quote, "So you do this again, question mark, quote, after you already knew that this was confidential information, or it was supposed confidential information as you like to paint it." And your response was, quote, "in a heartbeat," end quote. And so now that you've heard us and heard these repercussions and are fully aware that you released confidential information and that it violates our council rules and the privacy of our administrator, I want to give you the opportunity to say, would you still do it in a heartbeat? Or it sounds like you would seek legal counsel. So can you just clarify that, since we have heard that you would do it in a heartbeat?
I said if something came to me that said confidential on it, I would seek legal counsel. This did not. Would I put stuff out there that I believe is information people should know? Yes, I believe government should be transparent and not hiding things from those they represent.
Absolutely.
But that has nothing to do with my board position. That has everything to do with my constitutional First Amendment rights. And again, on this thing here, just putting this out there also puts me as a whistleblower, and there are numerous state and federal and local laws to protect whistleblowers. So.
Sure. Okay, so those are all the questions that I have, but I do have just a couple of comments that I would like to state, and just so we can put it on the record. Attorney Jacobs, may I discuss why we as a council originally chose to have the hearing in executive session? And I want to clarify, and I want to ask this because Mr. Osborne has been spreading misleading information to the community, stating that we decided to do this in an executive session behind closed doors and away from the public. So I just want to set the record straight so that the community understands why the council proposed to Mr. Osborne that it be an executive session. And I ask this because we discussed this in executive session and I would like to follow those rules.
Thank you for the question. What I would say is you should follow the procedures that we have in place. And this is the time for questions and answers, for you to ask Mr. Osborne questions and for him to answer. And
Okay.
then after the public comment period, there'll be an opportunity for him to respond. And then the council will have an opportunity to make some comments and do that. And so that'll be a better time for that. At that point in time, you can certainly talk about the reason for having an executive session. You can't disclose information from the executive session unless the full council consents, and you can certainly ask for that consent as part of that process.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Those are all the questions that I had.
Just for the record, it was going to be an executive session. I requested it be in public session because I believe all this stuff should be out there. It's public information. The people should be able to see it.
Understood. I would like to inform the community that there were other options that we as a council discussed.
All right, well, let's get back to questions. Counselor Tracy.
I don't have any questions.
All right, does anybody else have any other questions before I turn it over to public comment?
I have a question.
Yes.
I just need to ask Attorney Jacobson, can somebody get whistleblower status for somebody else? I mean, whistleblowing, can you explain what the whistleblowing comment is?
Yeah, so again, I mean, I leave it up to the council if you all want me to answer this question now. This is really sort of the type of discussion that is better
Yes.
for when you're having.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, these are questions for Bill. Any other questions for Bill? I don't see any hand. Oh, Counselor Garlington.
I didn't have a chance to look, but how many people are currently, the traffic safety holds 7 people, and how many people are currently on that board?
I believe right now we have 6.
You do. Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else? I don't see anything. Tammy, could you call the first person that signed up to speak, please?
First is Ralph Mateel.
Tammy, are you going to be timing these speakers?
Yes, I have the 3-minute timer on, and Mr. Mateel can unmute himself.
Got it. How's that?
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor, councilors, and City Administrator. I'm Ralph Mateel. I was raised in Gladstone. I went to school here all 12 years. And I currently own a home in Gladstone. And a comment before I get started. If this was public information, why do you suppose it was left in a Ziploc bag on a front door if it was meant to be shared? And then also, what attempt to authenticate this information was used? Did this fellow know that it was actually real documents, or was it just somebody playing a prank on him before he exposed all this to the public? Anyway, that was a comment. I had made some notes. I'll try to keep this at 3 minutes. Okay, as you're aware, at the May 11th council meeting, Mr. Osborne, and this is from notes from the press release, read aloud portions of a confidential document related to a city personnel matter that was resolved in August of 2020. The following is quoted from the council's May 20th press release. The confidential documents from which the member of the public read were later posted on various social media sites. And again, from the release, it's the council strongly condemns unauthorized release of the confidential information in question here. And finally, in your release, and I quote, "We want to reiterate our support for your city employees by condemning the unauthorized release of this information." So a few days later, when Mr. Osborne was asked if he'd do it again, we've heard this, his response was, "In a heartbeat." Mr. Osborne continues to post hurtful, hateful, and misleading posts on social media regarding this incident. So in summary, Mr. Osborne pulled this stunt publicly in front of you at the council meeting. Number 2, you condemned it publicly with your press release. Number 3, Mr. Osborne says he'd do it again in a heartbeat. And number 4, he continues to share hurtful, hateful, and misleading posts on social media regarding this incident. And finally, and this is clear, an undisputed financial risk to the city for his reckless and irresponsible behavior. Help me understand how this individual continues to play a role, any role, in Gladstone administration. In these days, there is heightened focus on city's leadership, and what appears to be indecisive and a delayed reaction is a horrible look for our city. Lack of swift action by the city council challenges the relevance of this administrative body and puts our city at unnecessary financial risk. In conclusion, as a concerned stakeholder and a vested interest in Gladstone, for reckless and irresponsible behavior to the detriment of the city, I strongly urge you to remove him immediately from all roles in Gladstone city government. Thank you for your time and your favorable consideration.
Thank you. Tammy, could you pull the next person up, please?
Next is Mark Zimpbaum.
Hi, council members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I assume I'm being heard because nobody's saying he's not there yet. Yes, I would urge the council to remove Bill Osborne from his committee on the traffic and safety. I feel that he has violated the trust as me of a citizen and that you all as a council. And quite honestly, I think the motives are blatantly clear in his pronouns because Bill tends to make these issues all about me, myself, and I. And as he sits there smiling about all this, he's just getting the biggest kick that he's wasting community time that we could be spent talking about the parks or something else. And so this is a very clear attempt by him to skirt, public information and public governance and should not be allowed. I read through several of his pamphlet things. He says he wants to represent the people and he's lost twice. So he does not represent Gladstone. He does not represent Clackamas because we voted not to have you represent us. He backdoored his way in to this traffic and safety committee. I understand he's friendly with some of you on this council and you may end up voting for him due to your friendship. But I just invite you to think about what are you opening yourselves up to in this. If I can take a small piece of information and then spin this beautiful story. I mean, you are an awesome creative writer, Bill. I will give you that. But your fan fiction is not the place at the city council meeting. And so I would urge council to remove him from his position and censor him in whatever way he can. And I would lastly like to say that he's not a whistleblower. He doesn't fall under the status. I'll let the lawyer explain the legal status of a whistleblower eventually, but it's someone in the actual government. It's not somebody who is acting as a citizen, as he said in this thing. And especially when you don't verify the documents. Thank you.
All right, I want to remind people that we're supposed to be talking about the criteria, not making even more tax on people. So if the next three speakers could please do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Next is Kelly Cheney.
Hi there. I just cut out for some reason, but the host reestablished my connection. Sorry about that. Kelly Cheney, thank you for the opportunity to speak. So to go to the criteria, I think part of the criteria is understanding what the mayor says at the beginning of every meeting, where we have local, state, and federal laws we have to abide by. And if you're going to work for the city, with the city, represent the city, you have to abide by those things. This idea that Mr. Osborne has that transparency and First Amendment speech is boundless and unlimited is not true. We have laws that rein that in. There's limitations. The Supreme Court has ruled on it. You can't say anything you want, especially when it comes to employment law or legal memos. He did not mention that he posted on Clackamas County Crime Watch the legal memo written by the city attorney. Everyone keeps focusing on Jackie's memo, but I have a screenshot with his name unless someone's impersonating him, posting it on Clackamas County Crime Watch, which he did not divulge when Miss Hartman asked him, where did you post this? And he's hoping nobody speaks to that because everybody just knows about the other websites and about him posting Jackie's memo. And that's showing that he cannot be trusted, and he cannot be trusted with these documents. And he continues to lie right up to the point where he has an opportunity to fall on his sword and tell the truth. He's still lying. And that is not acceptable. And then when the council appointed him, maybe they didn't know that. Maybe they didn't think he would go that far. But now you know. Now you know what he will do and continue to do with our taxpayer time, with our taxpayer documents. We paid for that legal memo. The taxpayers paid for that legal memo. And now it's shot to hell because he disclosed it. And the attorney can talk about the violation and waiver of privilege of being at the entire council, but he can also talk about what that means in the real world in real time when that stuff has been disclosed and there's an attorney deposing on the other side and they can use that information. That's very damaging to the taxpayers. And he did not learn his lesson, even when you all came together and said, hey, this is a problem and this is wrong. He's still digging his heels in. The job of the city council, the city staff, and the attorney is to protect those boundaries that we're talking about with regard to what you can say and what you can post and what you can do. And Mr. Osborne is jeopardizing that. And that's a reason he should be removed, because he continues to do it. It's a long-term problem. Somebody's feeding him information for at least the last 7 or 8 years. It needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped now. And as long as that is happening, he shouldn't have any sort of position. Only so many people got that legal memo. And most of them don't have Bill Osborne's phone number, let alone most of them don't know where he lives. And most of them aren't friends with him. So we can narrow it down to 3 people who speak to Bill Osborne outside of this. And then do those 3 people know where he lives? And did which one of those people got a memo that wasn't stamped confidential? Because everybody on the council got one stamped confidential. So who got one that wasn't? This investigation that we're going to pay for, it can get narrowed down real quick. And the
Kelly,
fact
your 3 minutes are up.
All right, thank you. Could you call up the next person, please?
Next is Ann Jenkins.
I'd like to say thank you to the previous speakers. My name is Ann Jenkins and my pronouns are she, her. I'm speaking to you tonight in support of decisive action and removal of a public officer as it relates to Bill Osborne. Bill Osborne has repeatedly shown by his actions that he does not respect and is not upholding his commitment to the integrity of the city, the board, and Gladstone Municipal Code in that, quote, board, commission, and committee members appointed by the council are considered public officials. As such, they are expected to abide by the Oregon government ethics law of the state of Oregon, end quote. As a member of the public, I am furious that this issue has gone this far. When I think about all the time and money that has gone into this line of inquiry, it just shows exactly how disrespectful Bill is of the city government and council's time and the city's money. I do not think it is necessary to recount the seemingly endless string of inappropriate actions of Bill Osborne, which were certainly discussed in great detail at the executive session / special meeting on May 19th, and that we have witnessed tonight directly from Mr. Osborne. Mayor and council, Mr. Osborne must be removed from his position as his disruptive behavior and outright lies should not be tolerated. And many in the Gladstone public agree with this sentiment, as we have heard from previous speakers, and many who are listening tonight. I would just like to stress again how important it is to remove Bill Osborne from his position as a public officer on the Traffic Safety Advisory Board in order to take decisive action to uphold accountability and enforce consequences for public officials or public officers who do not value and show commitment to the integrity of their position. Thank you.
All right, call up the last person, please.
Scotty Shaner.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. So my name is Scotty Shaner. My pronouns are she, her. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here to say that Bill Osborne should be released from his position and never allowed to serve in a public position again here in Gladstone. He clearly broke the public's trust when he not only released private personnel files, but he vowed to do it again if given the chance. He did and said this in a public forum. Even the mayor can't deny witnessing these posts. He is also claiming publicly that it is the council that's trying to get him removed from his position. I just want to say for the record that this is not the case. It is us, the public. The people who want him removed are the people who saw his disrespectful posts, and we are the ones who demand he get removed. The letter that was presented a couple meetings ago, that was signed by the public, not by the council members, but by Gladstone citizens and neighbors. Had we had more opportunity, we would have gotten more signatures. This is not just a handful of people that are upset about what happened. Don't be fooled by the small number of people speaking tonight. There are a lot of people that are upset about this. They are either afraid of backlash for speaking out, or they were unable to attend. This should be a no-brainer for the council. You do not need to finish the investigation into how he got those documents to know that this is the right thing to do. Bill Osborne needs to be removed now and forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Next,
Mayor, I
yes,
want to let you know we do have one person in the audience with their hand up.
you were to have sent in your request by noon today. And did this person submit their information by noon today?
They did not.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is to then bring Bill Osborne back on and let him make any closing comments or address any questions or concerns.
All right. Let's see. Before I start my closing statements, I just want to say that, between Councilor Tracy and some of these people keep repeating that I'm lying about things, but yet nobody has showed me what I've lied about. What I put out there was what was written. I didn't add to it. I didn't put my own stuff in there. I added my own opinions on what was said, but they're pretty factual based on what was written, assuming that's the truth. And, I think that as a practice, transparency is always best. And I think that when government tries to keep things untransparent, then maybe only part of the story gets out there. I would love to hear it all. And so if the city and Councilor Tracy want to share that at some time, I would be all ears. Let's see. I also want to point out before I even start on this, you talked about being able to do things and the appointments and removal from boards. One of the things is if it's prohibited by law. And again, I'm sure you're all familiar with the various whistleblower laws, and this does fall exactly into that. So let's see. The main concerns over this course. Let's see. Well, I'll try to keep from getting people all worked up and interrupting me here. So I'll have to cut some of the stuff out here. The potential liability or legal cost to the city. The main threat to the city is coming after a whistleblower, in this case, me, Bill Osborne. So the city created that liability to lash out and punish me. That's not my responsibility. It belongs to the counselors that are pushing for this. And that's the biggest legal liability or potential liability the city's facing right now at this point over this. The issue of confidential papers was squashed the moment they were released to me. At that point, if they were released to the public, they were no longer confidential, if they ever were. And that's something you can ask your attorney about. I didn't come get them. They weren't stolen. They were given to me. They were released to me. So regardless of who released them at the time they got to me, just like if they had reached a newspaper reporter or a television reporter, they're out there then. So on that accusation, I'm not at fault. Additional cost to the city. Same issue here. The city is spending money to violate my rights and break the law. I'm not responsible for the city taking illegal and unlawful actions in the pursuit of waging revenge. This investigation is unlawful unless the city believes it had a security breach. At that point, the breach would be the only thing to be investigated. This witch hunt to punish me and those who help me distribute the truth to the people is wrong and should not be happening. On that accusation, I'm not at fault. The impact on my ability to work with my board is not an issue. This had nothing to do with my role on traffic and safety, nor did it include any members. This is a non-issue. Most of you have known me for years. I've been out there questioning things, pointing things out, and if information was being hidden from the people, I helped to put it out in the light of day because that's where it should be. So this has nothing to do with traffic and safety. Traffic and safety is merely something where you guys might be able to reach out and punish me for, whistleblowing here. But again, that's not legal, it's not ethical, and it's not morally right. As far as community trust issues, I've been an outspoken representative of those who are afraid of the very attacks we are participating in right now. Over my time, I've contacted hundreds, if not thousands, of residents personally. While there are some in a small, loud group, and we hear from some of those, and they are friends, as they point out, with certain counselors up there as well, because the dark truth is about Gladstone, there are two very different political sides of it, and they are always fighting. Those who actually know me would have more trust issues with me if I allowed this not to be distributed. As far as trust in our elected officials and those who act in a manner and try to hide, they aren't trusted by anyone. So I haven't affected the trust in our elected officials because, again, if things were transparent, this never would have been an issue. There are some that hold office that are just here for the perceived power and the title. If public trust over this is an issue or a question, then the council needs to look at the person who put this all in motion. And again, I'm sure if I point that out, people will speak up, but the reality is if this incident hadn't happened, there would have been no documents. There would have been nothing for me to release. So on this accusation, I'm not at fault. I've served on the Traffic and Safety Board for 5 years now. I have never missed a meeting. I've been vice chair for 2 years. This incident and my board position are completely unrelated. This is simply something that members of the council are pushing to use as punishment for my whistleblowing. Ironic, they are committing an illegal act to get their revenge for the truth, or for the truth getting out there. Some people are under the belief these accusations aren't true, but they're wrong. I haven't helped to distribute lies. I just distributed a paper with somebody else's words. Again, bear with me. I'm trying to go through this so I don't ruffle too many more feathers here.
Can you please stop? Like, come on. Good
Well,
God. Just stop saying that. Like, come on, grow up. Finish your statement.
Okay. Removing me from this board to punish me for helping make Matt Tracy's actions transparent is not only morally and ethically wrong, but legally. You have already participated in an illegal executive session to discuss this. You may have to answer for that. At this point, you've already violated my civil rights and ignored numerous whistleblower laws from local to state to federal. And you will likely have to answer for both that as a city and as individuals. I hope the city attorney has let you know along the way that you are opening yourselves up and overstepping. If not, let me enlighten you now that I do not waive my constitutional rights as a volunteer board member. In fact, all volunteer board members go through a training session with the city attorney who says you have the right to do whatever you would as a person, as an individual. If you go out there and represent, for instance, If I had said, my name's Bill Osborne, I'm vice chair of Gladstone's Traffic and Safety Committee, and check this out, then I would have been overstepping my authority and I would have been bringing my position in, but I did not. And none of this had anything to do with my board position, and you all know that. The only reason I'm here are because this illegal, unlawful, and unethical attempt to punish me for the truth. I'd also say let this serve as notification that I reserve the right to take legal action against the city and individual council members. What you have done is wrong, and you have betrayed the people's trust and wasted the money of the people of the city of Gladstone.
Mayor, I just want to let you know the 5 minutes is up.
Okay, could you wrap it up, please, Bill?
Yep, I am here, so. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I want to push is that according to the city attorney in the training session, just because we're on a volunteer board does not mean we waive our rights as residents. As residents, we can do within certain reasons what's within the boundaries of the law. Again, this keeps coming up and being called confidential papers. These papers were deposited on my doorstep. And again, you can check with your attorney, as my attorney said that that means they've been released. They are no longer confidential. They were not marked confidential. There may be copies out there that you have that were, mine were not. I'm happy to show them, or you can click on the social media and read them yourself. So again, in closing here, coming after me for this violates the law, violates my civil rights. So this is not right, and it's not representing your oaths that you took, because you are violating the law in doing this. And I think that is all I have to say at the moment. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thank you.
Great, thank you. So now I'm going to close the hearing. Chad, since we don't do this very often, do I need to do a roll call vote to close the hearing?
No, you don't, Mayor. You can just close it.
Okay, so I'm closing the hearing at 7:47 p.m. And now it's time for us to deliberate. And I'm going to go counselor to counselor again so we can keep this in order. Counselor Alexander, comments, questions, concerns?
I guess, well, one of the people already mentioned it, yeah, people have friends and friends shouldn't matter in this. I don't condone what Bill did. I voted for the investigation. Here's the only thing I want to ask. We vote him off tonight, okay? And then what keeps Bill from doing this tomorrow or next week? See what I'm saying? I mean, so, and from hearing from all the people I heard from and all the emails we got today, if you listen to them, we want Bill off traffic safety. Okay, but in the same paragraph, they also, because we don't want it to cost the city any more money. Well, if you vote him off, you can almost guarantee it's going to cost you more money. So it's a tough one. Yeah, there you go. I saw, well, I have access to counsel also. And I asked him, and I had talked to our city attorney about this. You can be individually liable. And if he does sue the city, it will cost a lot of money. So that's all I'm pointing out. But we didn't need this to happen. It happened. It shouldn't have. We're going to investigate. We're going to find out how it happened. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Ripley.
There's one thing that caught me in your last statement. You said I distributed a paper with somebody else's notes. You automatically know you're not doing something right. I think all this is a planned attack. I think January was just planned. I think this stuff was planned. I think there's something else going on here that Bill and somebody else is working on. I do think that Bill does do a lot. He is a good person on the traffic safety committee. He does work with Solve a lot. He has a lot of good points. He's a very valuable, he was a very valuable member until he keeps these insults. And it's not us attacking or retaliating on anybody. If we have to take the name out of it, it doesn't matter if it's Bill, if it's Bob, if it's Joe, or whoever it is. If somebody on a city committee is going to give out information they know is private information. Hey, it's somebody else's handwriting. It showed up on your doorstep. That should raise questions. And I would really expect any committee member to go to Jackie if that ever happens again. But I really don't think you can keep somebody on a committee who is willing to give out information instead of follow the correct paths. When I was at the fire department, I got a write-up for not following the chain of command, and I emailed all the city councilors one of my complaints. And I didn't see that as an issue because I was a taxpayer, and I was explained, no, you're an employee of the city, you're city councilors, you can't send them, you have to go through the chain of command. Everybody knows about the chain of command. If I ever found a paper and I knew it was from somebody's notes, I would go to them and ask them what's going on. I wouldn't go in. So in other words, what I'm saying is, I think the actions were intentional, but whether they're intentional or not, I don't think that a member of any board or committee should be giving out information without following the correct path. I do think Bill's a valuable member. I'd hate to see him go away, but when I'm voting tonight, I will not be putting a name to it. I'll be putting a position in this. And I'm sorry, Bill. I really do think that you knew what you were doing, and I do think that you had ulterior motives. But I still want you to be involved in stuff, and I want to see you around town, even though we haven't talked for like a year and a half. But I think if you were in my position or any of the rest of the councilors' position, you would not feel the same way as you do right now. So that's all I got to say. We can't act like we don't know what's right and wrong. But we need to take the name off of it and look at the position. And then we need to go back and say, why isn't this already in one of the rules? Is this something that we need to add to the duties of a committee member? Don't give out city information, even in your off time. You know, maybe we need to put something in there. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Councilor Garlington.
I pass.
All right, Councilor Todd.
I really don't have any questions. My only thought is that serving on city committees and boards is not a right. Nobody is guaranteed access to these positions. People are appointed. And I really do think that I took an oath for the people. And I've talked to probably 60 emails and probably a dozen more people who are asking for this. So it's not one of my finer things. This is not what I like to do. I just want to get to the business of doing Gladstone work. And I really wish that you did too, Bill. So yeah, I have nothing to say except for that this isn't fun. So go ahead.
Didn't you have a question for the city
Yeah.
attorney?
Yeah. Attorney Jacobs, could you maybe fill in what that whistleblower definition is?
Sure. Mayor, members of the council, for the record, Chad Jacobs from the city attorney's office. So generally speaking, whistleblower laws apply to employees of organizations and of public bodies. Members of boards and committees are not deemed employees, and so the whistleblower protections don't apply. In addition, most whistleblower laws do not apply to the release of confidential information to the public. Under whistleblower laws, you're supposed to report potential wrongdoing through a chain of command, as Councilor Ripley was saying. There's certain people that you can report to even outside the quote unquote chain of command to do investigations as necessary, but it doesn't necessarily protect you from just going public with information. You see many examples of that, high profile examples of that, whether it's from the Pentagon Papers from the 1960s and 70s, whether it's from more recent information with Eric Snowden. There's lots of examples of situations where people go public with information and they don't have whistleblower protections. Rather than whistleblower protections, there's other issues which we've already talked about, other legal issues that you should take into consideration as this process moves forward and you contemplate how you're going to vote tonight. Just addressing real quickly what Councilor Alexander said, I just want to be clear and making sure that everyone understands the advice that I gave to him is that absolutely, members of the city council can be sued in their individual capacity. They can be named in a lawsuit for actions they take in their official capacity. What Councilor Alexander didn't say, and this is just what I want to clarify, is that under state law, the city has an obligation to defend and indemnify you. So while you can be named in a lawsuit, there isn't really a potential for personal liability, because the city, through its insurance company CIS, has the obligation to defend and indemnify you for the actions you're taking, as long as they're within the course and scope of your duties. And any vote that you take tonight will clearly be within the course and scope of your duties, whether you vote to keep Mr. Osborne on the committee or whether you vote to remove him. So I just want to make sure that that advice is clear, since I had only talked to Councilor Alexander about that before, and want to make sure that everyone has the same information.
All right, anything else, Councilor Todd? Councilor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. My first sort of statement or discussion, was for, again, Attorney Jacobs. Just I wanting to set the record straight for the community so that they understand what the truth is as to why we decided initially to propose this in executive session, because I don't want, as Mr. Osborne has on many social media outlets said, that we tried to hide this under the rug and all those things. That's not the truth. And so I just want to merely set the record for the record, not our detailed discussions, but why we, proposed it to be in the executive session. So I don't know how we can do
Sure.
that.
Why don't I explain the reasons for the executive session? If that answers your question, then we can move on. If you want to, provide more information than what I'm going to say, then we can talk about how you can do that. There were two potential executive sessions, one executive session that was held and one executive session that was proposed but not held. The first executive session that was held was to receive legal advice from our office about potential legal issues associated with this entire process. There was nothing illegal about that. It clearly falls within the scope of the executive session provisions. And you had an executive session where I was able to provide you with legal advice, and you were able to ask questions of me about that legal advice, so you can make a decision about how and if you wanted to proceed in this matter. The second proposed executive session was to permit Mr. Osborne to have this hearing in an executive session to protect his personal privacy. Under the public records, under the public meetings laws, there is a specific provision to have an executive session for these kinds of hearings, unless the person who is the subject of the hearing requests that it be held in an open session. So as is typical with public bodies and these kinds of actions, you propose the executive session and leave it up to, in this case, Mr. Osborne, to decide whether or not he wants to have that to protect his personal privacy interests, or whether he wants to have it in an open session. As we all know, Mr. Osborne chose to have this in an open session, which is why we're having that hearing tonight. Those are the two executive sessions that I know about. If there's others that you're thinking of, or if there's more information you want to disclose, I'm happy to talk about that further.
Nope, thank you, Attorney Jacobs. That was perfect. I just wanted to make sure that everyone in this community understands that we were not trying to hide anything, that it was up to Mr. Osborne whether or not to choose this to be public or not. My last thing is I would like to request that the emails that we all have received asking for Mr. Bill Osborne's removal be added to the record. In addition to these individual emails, I would also like to see that letter that was sent to us on June 7th, signed by the 55 community members, also be added to the record for the agenda item. I'm asking this simply, again, because Mr. Osborne has taken it upon himself to mislead our community by stating that specific 3 counselors are coming after him, referencing myself and Counselor Tracy and Counselor Todd. These are those lies that we're talking about. These are not factual statements, as it was a unanimous vote to investigate this further and hold you accountable for your actions. So personally, I want to let everyone know, how many folks have been constantly reaching out to the city to ask for the removal of Mr. Osborne because they believe he does not represent the values of the city. And as you stated, Mr. Osborne, on one of your many posts, quote, "Government exists to serve we the people," end quote. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are servicing the countless amounts of people who have reached out to us continually asking for you to be removed. So this is not any particular counselor's hidden agenda, and it certainly is not mine. So you can keep my name out of your mouth, because all I am doing is advocating for the community, and the community has spoken and they would like you removed. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Tracy.
Couple things. So I don't know, 4 or 5 times, I think I heard, threats that legal actions would be brought against us individually or as a council. I guess that's your prerogative, Mr. Osborne, but I find it, for somebody who really believes in government transparency, I find it kind of ironic, because what that does, by stating that a number of times in this proceeding, you're basically shutting the door or making those in our community who might want to actually serve their city and their community, you're making it very, very unpalatable for them. Nobody wants to be threatened by legal, by a lawsuit, basically. So I think you're doing a disjustice to the community. In addition, if you really were to talk to a reporter, the reporter that you did talk to came to the city and tried to verify. He didn't release anything really of any substance without verifying. So that's really part of the journalistic code of ethics. You have to verify, you have to have multiple sources and verify and do no harm. You're not interested in that, it's obvious. I think this is a lot deeper, and I'm gonna just say that. And I know that there are folks on this council who helped work this as a catalyst because it was brought up in earlier conversations. It's never been dropped since the time that City Administrator Betts and I had settled this issue over the difficulty of the conversation and the emotionality behind the issue. I've sat back and watched both the mayor and you mock young individuals in our community who have asked for some respect by teaching you both about the pronouns and what they mean to that community. So it's just constantly, this is like a circus. But I've also been told, don't use the term circus, because circuses are actually pretty well governed and pretty well managed. The threats of liability, I guess, bring it on. It's going to be more money coming out of the city's coffers, money that could be used elsewhere. And the explanation of the memo by Citizen Cheney, there was a confidential memo that was out there. So again, you right after Kelly Cheney said that, you came back on and said, no, there wasn't. She seems to have a screenshot of it. I just think this is a constant circus. We've got to get out of this. We've got to stop doing this. If you really care about the community, then step up. This isn't whistleblowing. You grabbed something that was a low-hanging fruit that you thought you could make some mileage out of. And now we're asking you to be, to basically to face up to your actions, because the community's trust is lost. They don't trust you, Mr. Osborne. That's why we have 55 people signing the back of a letter. That's why we have, I guess now the count is 35 to 40 emails from folks I don't recognize the names. These aren't my friends. These aren't people I know. You've lost the community's trust.
All right, anybody else have anything to say? Counselor Garlington.
So just a couple questions for Chad. Thank you for going over the legal whistleblower. And one of the people that spoke said a sentence that kind of not resonated, it just, aha. What are you opening yourself up to? So I'm asking you to tell us as council members, what are we opening ourselves up to?
Councilor Garlington, can you just clarify what you mean by what are we opening ourselves up to? You mean as far as potential litigation for Mr. Osborne?
Yes.
Okay. So I provided the council with written legal advice that we discussed in executive session that outlined the legal issues associated with this process. And so The potential litigation relates to that legal advice, which I'm not at liberty to discuss publicly unless the council as a body wants to waive that privilege, in which case then, I'm happy to talk about it. But that's not for me to be able to say, that's, for you as a body to be able to say. But I would say that refer back to that memo, refer back to our conversation, and that's the potential litigation that I see as a viable means for Mr. Osborne to potentially sue the city. As I said before, what you're opening yourselves up to is really litigation where you can be named as an individual, but under Oregon Tort Claims Act, the city has an obligation to defend and indemnify each of you individually. And so typically what happens is the city replaces each of you as the defendants in the litigation. There's often a motion to dismiss you as individuals, and the city just takes on the defense and the liability, potential liability, if any would exist. And the city does that through its insurance company, CIS. And so CIS would assign a defense counsel, whether that's in-house defense counsel or another attorney that they hire. So our office, wouldn't be defending that. It would be someone, assigned by CIS to do that. And they pay for those costs, and they pay for any settlement or damages if any are awarded, or the cost of defending it to a successful resolution. The city would potentially have a deductible that it would have to pay, and that would be the only out-of-cost dollars for the city. Does that adequately answer your question? Is there more to it?
No, that's fine. So
Okay.
Tammy, is it all right if I say something else?
Yeah.
Okay, I listened to a lot of people talk tonight. Full disclosure, I still have yet to have read the documents. I do know the subject of it. I won't lie about that. The whole thing absolutely hurts my heart. Unfortunately, I'm way too close to this situation in my own personal life that I have a hard time separating from that. I'm not sure that we answered all the questions as why Mr. Osborne should be removed from a board, but I will say this, that I've heard from enough people in emails and things like that, that there's a real trust issue. And when you lose trust, as most of us know, because we've been in relationships, that's a really hard thing to get back. You meet somebody and you shake their hand and you say, "Hi, how are you?" And you have no reason not to trust that person. But the minute they break that trust, the minute they go behind your back or talk to you, with someone else, step out of a relationship, whatever reason, you don't get trust back real easy. It takes years to get it back. And for that reason, Mr. Osborne, Bill, you and I are friends. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. That's the hard thing for me to get by, because if people can't trust you, and they can't trust me for a decision they've asked us to make, then why would they ever trust me again? And why would they ever trust you again? So unfortunately, it puts us in a really crappy position. And one that I don't know that I'm willing to I'm not willing to ask the people in this city to try. I want them to be able to continue to trust the decisions that I make, and that I would back their voice. So that's, but I want you to know that the whole thing hurts my heart more than any of you know. Any of you, anybody listening, just know that I've been there, and it hurts to think about it. Even to think about it, it just hurts. So that's what I have to say.
All right, anybody else have anything to say? All right, would someone like to make a motion, please? We've got two options: to remove or not to remove.
I'll make the motion that we remove Bill Osborne from the Traffic Safety Committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Counselor Hartman and seconded by Counselor Todd. And actually, there's the attorney in your little script there gave us the correct verbiage for that. Could you read it, Anessa?
That motion is adequate, Mayor.
Pardon?
The motion that was made is adequate. You don't have to follow
It is.
when I wrote verbatim.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so motion was made by Counselor Hartman, seconded by Counselor Todd to remove Bill Osborne from the Traffic Safety Commission. Do we have any other, oh, Counselor Todd?
I believe, so will this carry over with this motion to the Housing Code Audit Advisory Committee that he's also on?
All we're talking about right now is the Traffic Safety Board.
Okay, that was specific in the
That's
motion.
what we're talking
Okay.
about, yes.
Okay.
Do we have any other discussion? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
If we listen to the people, it's gonna cost us. I'm gonna say no and hope, Bill, that you do not sue the city. Let this go. Let it be over with. Let's move forward, please. Let's not carry this on. You stay on your board, whatever, but please, let's just let this go and move forward with the city, please. No.
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Mayor Stemple,
I feel strongly that his position as the board member has nothing to do with what he's doing on a personal level. It's totally separate. And by combining those two, it's sending a really bad message to people that when they're on our boards and committees, they can't also be individuals. I've heard lots of people say no, that he shouldn't be removed, that we need to address what's behind this. But the trust is lost, yes, so I'm gonna have to say yes. All right, so I'm sorry, Bill, but you're not on traffic safety anymore. Thank you. All right, we're going on to the next one, so we can hopefully get this meeting over with at a decent time. Number 9 is Resolution 1198, update the master fee schedule for pass-through water environmental services, referred to as WES, Oak Lodge Water, and Gladstone System Development Charges, also referred to as SDCs. Staff?
One moment, Tammy, Mayor Stemple.
Yes.
Could we take a 2-minute break? Sorry.
Yes. All right,
Please.
we'll take a 2-minute break. Okay, it's 8:16 p.m., so we're starting up again. Okay, staff, Resolution 1198, please.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is an annual resolution that we typically do at the start of a new fiscal year. Our acting Public Works Director, Darren Canaparoli, is going to walk you through the proposed changes to the master fee schedule.
Thank you, Jackie. So the Oak Lodge Water Services charge is decreasing by 1.5% due to overall consumption within the city, and the Water Environment Services charge is increasing 1.53%. The new monthly pass-through per charge per EDU will be $54.64 and $26.60. North Clackamas County Water Commission wholesale water rates will be increased by 3.9% from 0.7363 to 0.7667 cost per 100 cubic feet of water, which is 748 gallons. The city is including system development charges, also known as SDCs, to the master fee schedule to make the charges more transparent. This year's increase is 7%. This is based on the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. The city has updated the low income levels applicable of July, as of July 1st, 2021. The City of Gladstone master fee schedule is historically updated when the rates are revised so as to reflect the current rates and provide the public with accurate and timely information. Staff recommends the master fee schedule to reflect the updated water rate, water and sewer utility pass-through rates, updated system development charges, updating the low income user rates, as well as including a card replacement for the Meldrum Bar parking annual pass. This will become effective July 1 of 2021. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Questions, Counselor Todd?
Sorry about that. I hit something completely weird. No, I don't think.
I see the hands. I'll get down to you. Counselor Garlington.
I didn't see on here, because I like things a little bit black and white, but I see that the water charge was going to be increased. So what does that look like to all of our houses? What is that charge going to be coming across? My current water bill is kind of up there, and there's only 2 people that live in my house. I'm just wondering how much more it's going to go up, which is the same question anybody else had asked me.
Yeah, no problem. So that really depends on your amount of usage. The cost of 3.9%, it looks like that's about 0.303 or 04 for 748 gallons. It really all depends on the usage that you use within your household.
So I don't ever hit the minimum usage or whatever that is. So for whatever household that is just charged the minimum, what does that mean?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but typically there's a base charge. With that base charge, you will have whatever those base rates are. And then after that, anything used above the 748 gallons, then you will be charged extra for that. And the increase is, what is that? The 0.03 404 would be the increase on that. Very minimal.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes, ma'am.
We also have the ability for people that question that to call City Hall, and we can do a calculation for them specifically to look at their water consumption to tell them per case what their bill is going to go up for that. We are encouraged, though, if you see in here that Oak Lodge Water Services charge went down, which is very unusual for that. But everybody that's wanting to know an estimate of what their new bills would be, we're happy to calculate that for them.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Darren, what is the minimum CCF? Is it 6 per household, or is it down to 2? I don't see my bill, so.
And to be honest with you, I really don't know that.
You don't know that either?
More of a utility billing question, but we can get that information.
City Administrator Betts, do you know what the minimum is? I know we've talked about it in council meetings.
I don't. Our finance consultant is on vacation out off the grid, so I apologize that we don't have those specific answers.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Councilor Garlington? Councilor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. First, can you clarify what CCF is? I don't recognize that term. Mayor.
It's cubic feet of water.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was like, I can't remember. I don't know what that is.
100 cubic feet of water, excuse me.
Oh, okay. I have no questions. Councilor Garlington asked my question, so thank you. Sorry.
Right. Councilor Ripley.
No questions.
Councilor Alexander.
Yeah, when I'm reading this, so it says fee schedule for pass-through. So if I understand it right, pass-through, we collect the money and give it to these other cities. Do we charge these other cities a fee for doing that for them?
Yeah, there is an admin or an admin cost factored into the invoice that we send to them. I'm
So
not
we
sure
do,
exactly what the percentage is, but there is an admin cost factored in.
so we're not doing it for free. I just want to make sure, right? We're charging like they would charge us, right? I mean,
That is correct.
okay. And the only other thing I guess is you just said that Oak Grove's water is going down. Does Gladstone doesn't going to be going down here very soon, or can we even look for that in the future, or is it just not going to happen?
That's actually the Oak Lodge sewer charges going down. That is not a water charge.
Oh, okay. All right.
Two
Well, there you
separate
go. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay. All right. Thank you.
charges.
Counselor Tracy.
No questions, but sitting on the North Clackamas County Water Commission Board, I can tell you that we have very low levels in the Clackamas. Clackamas River's water is competed. There's a lot of competition, a lot of cities that draw off of Clackamas. I think it serves almost 500,000 in population. So we're going to be seeing probably curtailment at some point. I think I would urge everybody to conserve water. I've noticed that not very many people are watering this summer. But, you know, things aren't getting better. They're kind of getting worse, and there's going to be more pressures on the river. Our plant's running well. We're part owners. If for those of the citizens on this call that don't know that, we actually own a water plant with 2 other water authorities, including Oak Lodge. And things are going pretty well with plant. The problem here is water. So, you know, as you're doing whatever you do at home, please conserve. Keeps us out of curtailment. We have pretty good relationships with our surrounding cities and our other water commissions. And, you know, hopefully we won't incur these increases above, you know, a few percents. You know, this is really kind of almost inflationary, although it's not really the CPI for this year. It's more kind of a cost of living adjustment for the cost of the plant. Anyway, so conserve your water, and we live in a great area with a wonderful water source. It's very clean, and, you know, just basically think about conservation. Thanks.
Counselor Todd.
Yeah, I was trying to remember this when you were asking about the minimums. I was trying to go back and I was looking at my bill. There aren't any minimums. It used to be 6. And then in 2020, we voted to encourage, you know, water consumption, and we dropped that down. So there is no actual minimum, I believe.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it got decreased to 2 or something, which
That's
made
what I was
sure that we
thinking
covered
too.
admin fees, but
Yeah, but I know that it used to be 6, and then it was to encourage water conservation. So.
okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions or concerns? I would entertain a motion, and there's a motion written out for us on page 9-2 if someone would like to read it.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 1198, a resolution repealing the master fee schedule adopted under resolution number 1192 and adopting a new master fee schedule.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Counselor Garlington and seconded by Counselor Alexander to approve resolution number 1198. Any further discussion? I don't see any hands. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
All right.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, resolution 1198 has passed. Next is resolution 1199, charter review for the November ballot. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is one of the final steps that you need to take tonight to refer this to the November ballot. City Attorney Chad Jacobs has drafted a memo for you, and I'll have Chad go over the major highlights that were changed from the May work session that you held.
Thanks, Jackie. Again, for the record, Chad Jacobs from the City Attorney's Office. So the memo outlines the changes from the previous draft version of the charter that was referred to the voters several years ago. This is consistent with the discussion that we had during your last work session. The two major changes are really making sure that the mayoral terms stick with 4 years instead of moving it to 2, and that we stick with the language in the current charter related to city administrator instead of doing what was previously proposed as a new city manager position. The rest of the changes, for the most part, just implement those two major changes by cleaning up language that was in the previous version of the charter that referenced the city manager. And then we also ensured that we had all of the voter approved charter amendments, which are now in sections 42 through 48. So what you have before you tonight is a resolution that refers this revised version of the charter to the voters for consideration in November. The resolution also has a ballot title as well as a explanatory statement for the voter pamphlet for you to approve and discuss. The one thing that I would ask you to keep in mind as you go through those provisions, if you want to make any changes, in the ballot title, the caption has to be limited to 10 words. The question has to be limited to 20 words, and the summary has to be limited to 175 words. And it has to be a neutral statement that sets forth the major provisions of the proposal. The explanatory statement, likewise, just needs to remain neutral, not advocate for or against the measure, but in that one, you can go up to 500 words. So any changes, if you want to make any, we just have to stay within those word limits. Otherwise, we present this to you for referral to the voters consistent with your work session a couple months ago. I'm happy to answer any questions or help further discussion as I can.
All right, I've got questions, but I'm sure others will have the same. So I will start with Councillor Todd.
I don't rate the second, actually.
Okay, Councillor Garlington.
So I would just like to make one thing a little bit clear about what you just said for any folks that weren't around when we actually voted on this charter. We voted on a charter and we voted on a second item, second line item, if you want to call it that, on whether or not we want to move the mayor's position to a 2-year position or a 4-year position. So regardless of whether or not the charter would have or would not have passed at that time, the mayor's position time would be whatever was voted. And what was voted was that the mayor's seat stay at 4 years like the rest of the seats. So I don't want anybody to be confused with the fact that we're just changing that. That was a secondary item and it was voted for the 4 years to remain as it was. That's all.
Okay, Councillor Hartman.
I have no questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Ripley.
I don't have any questions, and thanks to everybody who worked on that.
Okay, Councillor Alexander.
Yeah, same as Councillor Ripley. Thank you. And no questions.
Councillor Tracy.
No questions and thank you.
So for me, the big one was just making it gender neutral. So that's a big thing throughout this document, correct? We carried that throughout.
Correct. That was done in the previous draft, so it just carries over to this draft. You're
It
right.
does. Okay. All right. Okay. Do we have any further questions or concerns? I don't see any hands. Would somebody make a motion, please? Let me find where it's nicely written. It's not.
Yeah, I can't find it either.
Sorry. Usually they do.
I apologize.
such a
That's
good
because
job.
I drafted the staff memo and didn't have the expertise of staff to guide me. So
Oh,
the motion would just-
Chad.
How about if I'll say this? I move that we pass a resolution calling an election in the city of Gladstone on November 2nd, 2021 to submit a new home rule charter to the voters.
So that's great. I would just add a resolution 1199.
Oh, resolution 1199.
All right. Do I have a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion was made to approve resolution 1199, charter review for the November ballot. Motion was made by Counselor Garlington, seconded by Counselor Todd. Any further discussion?
Incredible technique, Counselor Garlington. Good work.
I like Counselor Ripley and Counselor Alexander said, thank you to all the people that worked on this. There were many. Your time was valuable and appreciated by many people that I heard from that said, how come this didn't come back around? So thank you to all of them again. If I had that little binder that I've been hoarding in my little library with me, I would read off all your names, but you know who you are. Thank you again.
All right. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Tracy,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, resolution 1199 has passed. Next is item number 11, resolution 1200, a new public works facility for the November ballot. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. So you have another item tonight that you must consider submitting to the voters of the City of Gladstone for the November ballot. This item is a City Council goal, and that's the replacement of a public works facility to meet the critical facility requirements and support the increased demands and needs of staff. We first brought this to you in January of 2021 after doing our due diligence with a couple of consultants since 2017. We then prioritized this as a council goal and had a work session in April. We have put in the background and the history of the current facility in the staff report. And like Chad had mentioned with the ballot tile, when you look at page 11.4 and 11.5 in the packet, we had a bond counsel attorney, our city attorney, and our finance consultant and myself review the caption, the question, and the summary all have to be very carefully worded and not exceed the certain limits that we have. So what we're asking for the City Council tonight is to also refer this to the November ballot as in our charters per measures 3395 and 3394. We are required to get a vote of the citizens with anything that we spend or borrow over $1 million. So with that, I will ask or answer any questions that you may have.
All right, Councillor Todd.
This is more just a question for you, City Administrator Betts, for clarity for people who may be watching. If we move forward with this and then it goes on the ballot and it's approved, where would that line up with, I know a lot of people get very concerned that we still don't have our library type scenario. So could you sort of give me a timeline of if voters, and voters would be the one approving this, we're just put to charge on putting it on the ballot. If it was, where would that land with what's happening with our library here in town?
That's a great question. Thank you. And I also want to add that there are no proposed property taxes with this. It's strictly because of the spending limit authority that we're going to the voters. The timing could be almost parallel with the library. If this is approved in November, our proposal to the City Council would probably to do a progressive design build like we did with the Civic Center, where we would hire the architect and the contractor together. And this very well could start in the construction phase in the late 2022, 2023 fiscal years.
Okay. Thank you.
And the library is not using a progressive design build. They're doing it the old fashioned way. So it's snail's pace, but it is moving forward, correct?
That's correct. And that's why this construction timing could be pretty much the same.
Okay. And for clarification, the Civic Center also was built not raising any property taxes. came in on budget and on time, correct? Okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
All right, Counselor Garlington.
So I'm just going to go on top of Counselor Todd's comments, that there are no new taxes. This is not the same type of funding that we pay taxes on the school bond for, and there is no refinance that would happen on this that would affect all of our property taxes every year, correct?
That is correct.
So we are finding this money within our own city budget, and we are making the payments within our own city budget, correct?
Yes, if the voter approved this, we would borrow the funds and it would be repaid proportionately from the enterprise funds in the Public Works Department. So yes, what you said is accurate. And I'd also like to add that we do have a public outreach campaign that we will launch next week leading up to the November ballot that will have video of the building. It will have press releases, public information explaining why the current building needs to be replaced. And so paralleling this process will be a very thorough public education outreach for this.
And I do appreciate that. And I want to go back to when we were talking about City Hall and public comment about that. And one of the things that I think that is really important that people know is that our employees deserve a safe place to work. And, you know, a working facility that when you flush a toilet, it flushes. And, you know, when you walk through a door, it closes and opens like it's supposed to. And that's not asking a lot. We're not, you know, not trying to build the best in the world's greatest, but we do want a safe and fair place for all of our employees to be at every day for, if you're like anything like me, 50 to 60 hours a week. So with that, I support this. And thank you, Administrator Betts and Mr. Canaparoli for bringing all of this forward. I appreciate your hard work.
Right, Counselor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to piggyback on what Councilor Garlington was saying. And I think it's so important for us to educate the community, as we've all seen the comments about our new city hall, as to why this building is so important for our public works facility, and that it is a critical facility for our infrastructure within our city. And I'm more than happy to help, you know, promote that information, and I would love to, you know, help with that education. So thank you for all your hard work, and I'm full support of this. So thank you.
Councilor Ripley.
I think one thing to remember is that the Public Works Department, they are emergency responders, and we need to make sure we let the public know that they don't just do their day-to-day jobs. We see them out there doing, but they're extremely important to the police, to the fire. We got to keep if you want an ambulance going down the road, a fire engine going down the road, we need roads to go down. But we need a good facility because they are emergency responders. And they have not had that for a long time. But we need the right facility with the right equipment and the right people in it to take care of our community. So I think that's my one thought, is just to remember that they are emergency responders, not all day long, but when we need them, we want them to be ready to roll. That's all I thought.
Thank you. Councilor Alexander.
Oh, great idea. I support this, and I always think it's great when the public gets to voice their opinion at the, you know, they get a chance to speak. So that it goes to on the ballot, that's a great thing. Thanks.
All right, Councilor Tracy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo Councilor Ripley. I think the fact that we need this critical facility, these are essential services, and the fact that they are first responders, certainly in the events that we've witnessed or experienced over the last year, it's really important to get them into a facility that where they can be safe. I mean, frankly, I think we're 50 years, which is about 30 years over life expectancy of the building they're currently in. So it has outlived its purpose. I'm very happy the staff has put together a package that doesn't really impact the rates or increase the rates. I think they did a fantastic job with keeping the Civic Center under budget or at budget. So I trust the staff for going forward, and I think the citizens should too. Happy to support this resolution as it goes to put this on the ballot so that our citizens can have some say over this expenditure of above $1 million.
All right, I'm just going to echo what others have said. This is an essential facility, and I believe that we are required to have Public Works as an essential facility. And right now, and for the past 50 years, they've been living in a glorified garage. No showers, it's awful. So they absolutely deserve this. Any other questions before I ask for a motion? I don't see anything. Would someone like to make a motion, please? There's one already written on page 11-3.
I'll make it. It's that we approve resolution 1200, a resolution submitting to registered voters of the city a referral approving the Gladstone City Council's authority to incur debt to finance and construct a new public works facility that is projected to cost more than $1 million.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councillor Alexander, seconded by Councillor Todd to approve resolution 1200. Any further discussion? I don't see any hands. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, resolution 1200 has passed. Next is item 12, the creation of a community services manager position. Staff.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. With our form of government, as me, a city administrator, you, the council, you have a say in the positions that are created at the department head level. The senior center manager position is one that unfortunately was eliminated due to the COVID pandemic that we've been just coming out of for the last year and a half. We've had some time to talk to folks in the community and work with our senior center advisory board and to really think about what are the kinds of programs that we want to continue at the senior center and how can we reach out and enhance and reach a greater population in Gladstone. We have this wonderful facility. The city commits to $350,000 annually to operate it. And so what I'm proposing tonight is something that our human resources consultant and I have devised, where we would create a community services manager position, and that person would still be physically from the senior center, but it would allow them to come in and reassess the current positions we have to determine how we can have a more robust senior program. In addition with that, to start looking at what kind of other community programs that we would be able to offer at the senior center. I want to make it clear that we're not talking about a name change for the building. It's still the Gladstone Senior Center. But I think that this is the first change that we need to have in Gladstone. And another key essential function that we've put into this job description is that we have found that in an emergency situation, the senior center can be utilized as a resource center. So working with our incident commander, who is typically our fire chief and our police chief, depending on the circumstances, the person that we hire in this community services manager position could also help us with the emergency resource center and help us with a very robust volunteer coordination plan. So what I put is a copy of the job description in the city council packet. All you are doing is authorizing us to create this. The city would then start recruitment, hopefully the 1st of August. Because this is a very high profile position in the community, I suspect that people from the city council will participate in the interview process, as will members of the Senior Center Advisory Committee and community members. So with that, I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Jackie, you're asking for a roll call vote, or you just want a consensus?
I need a majority of you to agree. So however you want to come to that, that would give me the authority then to go ahead and move forward with the position.
Thank you. Counselor Todd, questions or concerns?
I do not. The only question or concerns that I've heard from the community is the concern about it not being a senior center focused facility any longer. And you sort of explained that, quite well. And we've received emails on that. So besides that, and I also need to let you know, Counselor Hartman has a sick little one and had to step away for a second. So if we do a consensus, she wouldn't have to be here.
Okay, Counselor Garlington.
So I don't have any questions about this. I support you, Administrator Betts, in this endeavor. I just like to piggyback on Counselor Todd a little bit about, when I've been in the building, it came to me how big that building is and how many things that building has the ability to do. So I'm really excited to see it used to its greatest potential. So that's, in reading this, thank you for bringing that around.
Counselor Ripley.
Meeting safe.
Counselor Alexander.
So it says community services manager. So they're going to be stationed at the senior center and run the senior center, but they're also going to have other duties in their scope.
It will have other duties in their scope, but yes, their office will be at the senior center.
Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Tracy.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Counselor Hartman.
Hi, thank you. My only question I had was just in terms of the education and experience and what our thought was on having a requirement for a nutritional background.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
For a nutritional background, because I believe that there will be, are they going to be overseeing the food program for the seniors?
They will. We also have a separate position for the nutrition coordinator position. So this person will oversee that, or it could be that the senior center position oversees that as well.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Well, I have to say that I've been involved with the senior center for a long time, and I've never seen a group of women so excited about what it could be. They are just dancing in the streets on what they can do with the senior center, and they're all fantastic ideas to really bring the community together and support our seniors. So I'm super excited about this. Counselor Garlington is the senior center liaison, so I'm sure she can attest to the fact that these people are thrilled. So anybody else have any questions or concerns? I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this one, and this would be a roll call vote to authorize the city administrator to create a community services manager position. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Motion was made by Counselor Tracy and seconded by Counselor Alexander to authorize the city administrator to create a community services manager position. Any further discussion? Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Todd.
Yes.
Counselor Hartman.
Aye.
Counselor Tracy.
Aye.
Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Ripley.
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, so it looks like we have a new position. Awesome. All right, staff, do we have any business carried forward?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, so business from the audience. It looks like we have one person. Tammy, could you call her up, please?
Scotty Shaner.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about Meldon Bar, and I just wanted to put on the record for you guys and kind of in relation to the meeting from last night. But this is an email that I sent. I asked, have any of you been to the park recently? Because it's been very empty and it's very sad. Also, have you actually pulled up to the pay station? Because it's impossible to pay from your car. You have to get out. Second, you need to reconsider the decision, or the Parks Committee, about charging fees for the sports teams, because you're basically charging the families twice or three times if you're a taxpayer. And regarding game days, please make them free. It's not fair that the opposing teams have to pay when we don't have to pay to play on their fields. And the line would be ridiculous. I'm not kidding. I mean, really, it would be absurd. So please make game days free. I know they mentioned that the pay stations was going to change or something last night. I guess the one that's there isn't the one that's supposed to be there. But please reconsider how the season or the annual passes are handled. To have to stop every single time I go through there, it's unnecessary. I could easily put something that stays on my dashboard, gets stuck to my window, hangs from my mirror. Very, very simple things that would make it to where I can just drive through and keep the line going very, very easily. And one more thing, it was incredibly irresponsible for you, Mayor Stemple, to put a happy little emoji about a post or after a post on somebody talking about enjoying illegal fireworks in an unprecedented heat wave. Shame on you. A good mayor who's married to the fire chief would have commented that they are illegal and they should have contacted the authorities immediately to avoid burning down our city. Thank you.
Okay, don't remember that, but all right. Business from council. Councilor Todd.
Excuse me, Tammy,
Yes.
can we make a correction on that you're not married to fire chief?
Yeah, no, I'm not married to the fire chief, so
Okay.
no, and I don't encourage people to do illegal fireworks either. I spent 4 hours going out that night with the police department trying to make sure that people were only doing legal fireworks. So yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. Councilor Todd, business from that council.
I'm actually really spent right now. So the only thing that I wanted to say was that would probably be fruitful at all is that I'd like to wish Administrator Betts happy birthday. And so sorry you're with us at 9 o'clock on your birthday. So thank you for all you do. That's it.
Councilor Garlington.
So ditto on the happy birthday. I got a memo from Oregon Transportation Plan Committee, and they are looking for 3 at-large members. If anybody's interested, because I know a lot of people have come up when we've discussed the tolling on 205 and things like that, that, how do we keep this from happening? You get involved, you volunteer, you put yourself out there, you go to the meetings. They're looking for 3 people. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. I don't have any boards to talk about really. We have our first library meeting since passing the budget a couple of months ago, and that's Thursday. And then we have a senior center meeting next Tuesday. I know the senior center is going to be really happy that things are going to be moving forward. So that's really awesome. And I think the library people have a lot of really good stuff happening. I have the packet. I just got it. I need to read it, but as soon as I know if we have a timeline or what they're looking at, I will get it back to everyone as quick as I can possibly get it, even if I can send out a quick email. So that's it. Thank
May I ask
you.
a
And
question?
yes, ma'am.
Is the position that they're looking for the committee that they're looking for 3 people to be involved in, is that the same thing that Councilor Ripley's on?
I haven't gotten any emails from that group in over a year.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if
So
they
this
shut
says-
down and started a new one or what.
This says 3 at-large members needed for Oregon Transportation Plan Committee.
Okay.
So I don't know if the city got it or not, but I could forward that to the city and see if they could put it out there as I can't recall whether or not we have a volunteer page, but this would be a great thing to put on there if we had that for somebody to get involved. I mean, I think it would be super awesome if Gladstone had a representative, you know, talking about the freeway that literally runs in our backyard. So you complete an online form and see if you get chosen. So I encourage people to get out there and, you know, if you've got the time and the wherewithal, you know, it would, like I said, it would be great to have somebody's name that said Gladstone on that committee.
All right, Councilor Ripley.
The only thing I really want to talk about is this 4th of July excitement about banning fireworks. And whether we did or didn't, it was a successful 4th of July. But just because the 4th of July is over doesn't mean your house can't burn down. I'll tell you personally, I was not afraid one bit of my house burning down on 4th of July because I have no bushes around my house. I don't have flammable stuff around my house. Only thing that burns is my asphalt shingles or my cedar site, but there's no fuel load. I don't use bark dust. So if people, you need to walk around your house and evaluate, is your house fire safe? If somebody flicks a cigarette, if a spark comes off a car, it's more than just 4th of July that we need to be careful of. It's every day of the year. But making sure, you know, not having bushes around your house, it's also a safety thing. A bad guy can't hide in your bushes at your front door if there's no bush by your front door. But if you drive around and start looking at the vegetation around the houses in Gladstone and some of the yards, it's pretty horrible. There you'll see, I walk the dogs 3 times a day. You will see there's stacks of fence boards in people's yards, lumber. There's double piles of lumber and old firewood that we have some skunks living in up the road. But all those little areas, if you're really concerned about the 4th of July fireworks, maybe you should clean up your yard a little bit. So, and if anybody wants suggestions or wants me to come over and look at their yard, I'd be more than happy to come tell them what'll burn and what won't burn in their yard and what they can do to help themselves out. So that's my final say is forest is over, but your house can still burn down. So we still need to be fire conscious with our family and friends and neighbors.
Well, and to follow up with Councilor Ripley, is the CERT meeting tonight, I think was on that topic. And I think is that correct? City Administrator, I think it was on defensible space and they're going to have it on the CERT website.
Yeah, they just finished that tonight, and it also just adding to that, it looks like that the news crews were there and very impressed and will be running stories. Ready, set, go, and defensible space was the topic. So that will also be on the news tonight.
Perfect. So perfect timing, Councilor Ripley. Councilor Alexander.
Yeah, I'd like to say, so I went out and I passed out a lot of those flyers. I put them on everywhere I could. And then I went out on a ride along that night on the 4th of July. And then as we all got the city email from Chief Huffman and Chief Schmerber, it was a real quiet night. I mean, you know, wasn't very exciting at all, but so, you know, but we did that. Second of all, I'd like to agree with everything the person who just spoke, Scotty Shaner, said about the park. I have to agree with all that. And the other day, I'm going to tell you what happened. There does need to be some adjustments made. There was there was a lady, I talked to her, so I could tell she was Russian lady. And then there was also an Hispanic family with their children. Both of them had money in their hands. And when I was there, they said, I got the $3. So I just took my card, swiped it, gave them the ticket for their dash. I said, I know and I'm just saying, we didn't think this all the way through. And so there's got to be a lot of changes to that. The sports user fees, I talked to those people. Nobody should have to pay to come watch their kid play sports. So we've got a lot of adjustments to do on that kiosk, I believe, and the park situation. And after that, I just hope that, I just hope we can get back to like when we had that retreat and we all spoke freely and agreed we'd work together and just work for the city. I hope we can get back to that again. And that was a better time. Let's try to get there again. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Tracy.
I'd like to thank the citizens that reached out to me over the past month or so with comments and support. Appreciate that. I too think that we probably need to go back to the drawing board, maybe discuss Melbourne Bar and some of the impacts and try to figure out if we can mitigate some of that. But honestly, to the city staff, I say, it was quite a monumental undertaking. And so, it doesn't always go right the first time. We're all, those of us that work in government understand that. Again, appreciate the folks who are speaking up. I want them to get involved and I don't want them to feel like they should be intimidated not to. I think there are certain people in this community that that mimic each other in their intimidative efforts. And I think it's really, really sad and very juvenile. So to those folks, I say, I support you. I'll get you back. I'll stand beside you. Please step up and become a part of our community, serve your community. We'll get past this. I know it's gone on and on and on for years, but we will get past it. And I appreciate their support, appreciate them speaking up, appreciate them putting their hand in the air. And most importantly, I appreciate the fact that they live in a community. Some of them are very new to our community and they've stepped right out their front door and taken part and taken action. That's admirable and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Hartman.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to also echo Councilor Alexander and Councilor Tracy and Scotty in regard to the pay station. There are some real inequities with that pay station, as Councilor Alexander encountered with the inability to accept cash, as well as if anyone wants to purchase, if they come there on the weekend, they want to purchase a year-long pass, they should be able to do that immediately, but City Hall isn't open on the weekends. So I do agree that we should be coming back to the drawing board on how we can, avoid some of these inequities. I also wanted to let everyone know that our school district is providing summer school this year for all age groups. So please be mindful when you're driving around the elementary, middle, and high schools. They are out and about, and it's great to see everybody in almost full-time school. It's pretty exciting. I also want to say thank you to everyone on the council and in our community who came together for that heat wave and supported the senior center opening up as a cooling shelter. I know I don't have air conditioning, so it was wonderful going in there. And then I also wanted to thank the community members that Councilor Alexander and I met with that voiced their concerns about speeding in our neighborhoods, and that they happily led this project of passing out the ODOT slow down signs. I thought it was a perfect example of our community members like voicing their concerns and being heard. And they were also very supportive in helping us spread the word. So to Councilor Garlington's point about that opportunity, I'm sure they would be very interested in doing that. I think they passed out well over 30 signs, if not more. So thank you to Elsa Long and her family, and Kristen Mann and her family. Thank you so much for being supportive of us. And that's all I got.
All right, I guess I'm last. First, Jackie, we can get annual passes in the machine, can't we?
That is correct. You can purchase the annual passes on site.
Yep, and it actually spits out one of the annual pass cards, just like the citizens get.
Yes.
So yeah, you can do that. So last night was the Parks Board meeting. We received an update on the Melbourne Bar fee station. Discussion regarding sports user fees. They will be recommending holding off the implementation until the Meldrum Bar site plan has been done and to see if they recommend that as a revenue stream. They also discussed wayfinding sign committee. Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, C4, started their meeting with a presentation from Metro on the Metro South Transfer Station. It looks like it's going to be off Jennifer Street on the Clackamas River. I think they may be looking at some other sites too, but they're still doing their investigation on this one site. They've increased their commercial and residential tipping fees. I believe it was to help cover this project. I think that's what she said, but I'm not 100% sure. They reviewed the post-fire and upcoming season wildfire potential. They're going to be focusing on communications, which will include splash alerts, one point of contact and a public inquiry center. They will be linking up with community-based organizations because as we found in the fall, Red Cross was absolutely not available for us. And it's because they were spread so thin with all of the other wildfires in the region. They just didn't have anybody available. So we kind of just jumped and said, we're going to do it and worry about the paperwork later. And that worked, but it's not ideal. They're looking for options for RVs and displaced family housing. They're looking at rural evacuation routes, and OSU has stepped up and they're going to help with the animal evacuations. The Strategic Investment Fund is less than expected, which is that pot of about $200,000 we would be getting annually. They put an amnesty in place because of COVID, so there'll be a dip in that revenue for now. The 2021 legislative session, 2,500 bills were introduced. The Clackamas County Courthouse was given $94 million. There's some questions regarding the public-private partnership that they need to work on, but it's a go. House Bill 3055, which is the Transportation Omnibus Bill, also called the Flexible Penny, which allows some of the funds that are collected to be redirected to 205, and it passed. So phase one for I-205 is going to be starting this spring, and it's between 10th Street and 213, and will include the Abernathy Bridge. Also, the good part of that is it allows funds to go towards diversion. So it will be when we have cars blocking our roads because 205 is shut down, we can use some of that money to address those issues. That's awesome. The end of the session, there's some leftover money, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. This year it was a lot, and they call it the Christmas Tree Fund. So this year with that Christmas Tree Fund, the Sunrise Corridor was given $4 million for community engagement. The piece we should like the most is the Gladstone Oak Lodge Library got $500,000. Thank you, Mark Meek and Neil Reisner, for pushing that. So that was exciting. I don't want to bore everybody. Oh, Gladstone Historical Society, which I affectionately call the Hysterical Society because they really are total nerds when it comes to history and they make it fun. Kim Huey uncovered a ton of things that are the first in Gladstone or the first that happened here and moved out. So on August 12th at 6:30 at Max Patterson Park, the Hysterical Society is going to be hosting a hot dog barbecue to come by, learn a little bit about history and maybe want to get involved. And then Kim Huey, who is our Jedi Master Historian, is going to be giving talks the second Wednesday in July, August, September, and October at Somerset at 2 p.m. And she will amaze you with the history that comes from Gladstone. Upcoming meetings, August 10th is our regular city council meeting at 6:30. August 18th is our joint meeting with the school district, and that will be at 5:30 p.m. That's all I have, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just have a question real fast.
Yes.
Are we still looking for people for the Gladstone needed housing advisory committee? And when's the deadline on that?
Yes, and the deadline is July 31st.
Okay, and the applications are on the website, on the city website?
That's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yes. I make so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Todd and seconded by Counselor Garlington to adjourn. Do we have any further discussion? I don't see any hands. Tammy, could you do a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Ripley,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Tracy,
Aye.
Counselor Hartman,
Aye.
Counselor Todd,
Yes.
Counselor Garlington,
Yes.
Mayor Stemple.
Yes, meeting is adjourned at 9:13 p.m.